Hi, I'm MarzGurl.
And I'm JoshKnightTheFirst.
And welcome to episode 1 of MokkoriPlay, the only podcast dedicated solely to all things City Hunter.
On today's podcast, we're going to cover episode 1 of City Hunter, titled One Cool Sweeper, XYZ is a Dangerous Cocktail.
If you guys are just getting here for the first time, if you're wondering, well, we've got another episode that we've already done. What episode is that? That's our episode 0. You may be interested in going back, re-listening to episode 0, where we discuss, well, what is this City Hunter thing? What's all the manga about, all the anime about, all the movies and spin-offs about. We covered all that in episode 0. If you want to go ahead and follow along with us, please do. If you want to pause before you get started into this one and go watch episode 1, it is available on many...
Episode 0. Oh no, you're talking about episode 1 of the show.
I am talking about episode 1
It's
of
what
City.
happens. You get confused between podcasts and episodes. It's very confusing.
Well, when talking about City Hunter specifically, the anime, it's
Yes.
available on lots of different platforms right now. Crunchyroll, Verve,
Retro Crush.
You've got lots of options, so you can join in and watch right along with us. And I hope some of you have right now, because we're going to be talking about the very first introduction episode of City Hunter. This is based on the manga directly, and I have read a little bit of the manga, what little that I could find, and so this is absolutely lifted directly from the pages of the manga.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and get into that first episode. First thing, of course, you're going to be introduced to is the opening theme. Mm-hmm. And that opening, just visually speaking, it's got hella 80s drip.
It's I o Kianaide, so love doesn't disappear, or love don't disappear.
Yeah, or love don't leave me.
Yeah.
And, it's a very upbeat song. Ryo is definitely featured primarily since, of course, he's the protagonist. We see a little bit of Kaori throughout. We don't get a really good look at her, though, like we do in a lot of the other openings.
Which is, it's sort of fair, because she doesn't show up for a handful of episodes anyway, I guess. But this opening really pops. It's very city pop. It's very Miami Vice looking, and it draws you in immediately.
Just those vibrant colors.
Just that aesthetic alone is enough to pull you in, like, what is this show? But it bears speaking to the fact that when you're watching the first episode, it's really not the same tone as the rest of the series that kind of comes a few episodes later. It's
right.
Much more serious tone than future episodes are going to be.
Although, to be fair, when we are first introduced to Ryo here in episode 1, the very first thing that we see him doing absolutely sets the tone for who he is as a character. He's showing his marksmanship abilities, but also this very noticeable pervert chuckle that he does. This very...
really cartoonish, and yeah, he's a perv, and it's not cool that he's peeping on women through windows, through his sight on his gun.
On his scope, on his sniper rifle
on
here.
His scope, but it's very cartoony. That cartoonish chuckle that you just did.
Yeah, it took me a long time watching it. I couldn't quite get the hang of it because it's just, he does it every episode.
Right.
But I couldn't quite get it, but you're telling me, no, you gotta get real deep into your throat, like...
Yeah, throw it all the way back there.
Because I was doing, but it wasn't quite there.
No, you almost gotta gargle it.
Yeah, you really gotta, like...
Yeah.
Like, really, like, circus clown laugh.
Realize this voice actor, who we talked about him before, he also did Kenshiro, and he's done, Kinnikuman.
Yes.
He's just so famous for his cartoony voice, and apparently his shouting. His shouting, apparently, in Japan is just kind of legendary.
Right. So we get introed to that here. Obviously, he's on this mission right now with Makimura, using him as a balance for his sniper rifle, and when it goes off, Makimura's not wearing any earplugs. So his right ear should be deaf.
Right, because the gun is positioned on his shoulder.
On his right shoulder.
On Makimura's right shoulder. So, as a reminder of who Makimura is...
Makimura is Ryo's partner here, and together the two of them are City Hunter.
Right. So City Hunter is not necessarily just Ryo, although very commonly, like, villains and enemies and other people around town will hear hushed whispers whispers of, oh, who's this city hunter guy? And yes, that's Ryo.
Yeah, primarily they're referring to Ryo, but as a collective, it's Ryo and whoever his partner is.
Right, exactly. And so the backstory is that Makimura and Ryo have been partners for at least a couple of years now. That's all you're meant to know at this point in time.
Like, we'll probably end up correcting this later, but if I'm not mistaken, based off later episodes that give you a more definitive timeline, they've only been working together for maybe about 3 or 4 years.
Right.
But they've developed quite the partnership.
They're partners, they're friends. You know, they know each other.
One of the things we see throughout this episode is that the dialogue between the two of them, Makimura gives a lot of the expositional dialogue. Here's what's going on in the episode, here's our missions for the day. But aside from that, there's not a lot of real dialogue between them, or the dialogue is very quick. Not so much to say they don't talk a lot, but they seem to have this unspoken bond where they don't need as many words, just to show that's how familiar they are with each other.
It does also sort of seem like, do they work out of Makimura's apartment, or are they working out of Ryo's apartment just yet?
As I understand it, I think it's the same apartment, far as I'm aware, because you're going to see this apartment throughout the entirety of the show.
Right.
If I'm not mistaken, it's Ryo, like, the lease would be in Ryo's name.
Right.
So I'm betting it's his. And Makimura just... Well, I don't even know then, because does Makimura live there?
No, he doesn't live there, and this is kind of getting ahead, but he will talk about later when he talks about his sister at home. It's his home that he goes back to, and he still lives with Kaori.
Okay, so then when he goes over to the apartment, that's like him going to the office, basically.
Right.
Okay, so that clears that up. See, we're even learning here as we're recording. So our mission for this week that Ryo is given is that we have a killer on the loose, a psychopath, who is driving around in a white BMW, and he is wantonly killing people on the street just for the hell of it.
He just thinks it's fun. He says so later, oh, you're gonna kill my fun. People who are trying to stop him from just murdering random people on the street because he thinks it's cool.
Yeah, so basically his MO is that he's calling people over to his car, asking for directions, and then when they're distracted, he shoots them with a silencer, drives off like it's no big deal, and then does it again a few days later. So in the process of him doing this, he has killed a girl who had an older sister. The older sister is, of course, grieving for the loss of her sister and decides to seek out the help of City Hunter. Now, once Ryo is made aware of the situation by Makimura, they go ahead and decide to meet up there in Shinjuku. We get to see a nice clear shot of the sign there, the gate in Shinjuku, the red.
For Kabukicho.
For Kabukicho.
Right, but mind you, he wasn't initially even gonna pick up this mission.
Right.
Because he thought, I'm not gonna help any dudes. And then Makimura's like, nope, it's a woman. And then Ryo's like, okay.
And is she hot?
To kind of take a step back, too, right at the beginning of the episode, we see little bits and pieces of things that are problematic that show up. That's the nature of what City Hunter is, unfortunately. We're choosing this to be our problematic fave, and we're not gonna say that if it were real life, it would be okay, because it's not. But,
of course,
looking through his scope, through the windows and peeping at women, and eventually he lands on a dude instead, and the subtitles are like, I hate men. I understand him not feeling attracted to men, but I also wonder if the word choiceage maybe doesn't age so great now.
Yeah. That, again, product of the 80s, we understand it. We do not condone it. We are simply documenting it for entertainment purpose.
Right.
Yes. So, going back to meeting up there in Kabukicho, Ryo has elected to go ahead and pick I assume it's one of his favorite night spots there in Kabukicho to meet with the client, which seems to very clearly be a titty bar.
It's just a titty bar, and man, we get some of the most up-in-your-face titties that you see in the entire show, really.
There are pasties.
There are pasties over these nipples, but you zoom all the way in on them, and the pasties are so small, and they're star-shaped, and they're pink, and the woman is wearing just the tiniest
skirt.
It's not even a skirt.
It's a piece of cloth.
It's just what is kitchenware? What is
an apron?
Yeah, it's like this tiny pink apron around the waist, and the art, they really just went in with the softest brushes on this art for just a few frames.
Like the softest Instagram filter you can think of is on this woman's boobs.
It's weird. It doesn't look like anything else from the rest of the episode.
So Ryo goes ahead and meets with the client, and this is the first instance where we're seeing physically that he is crossing boundaries. He goes ahead and feels her up there at the table.
In fact, he shows up underneath the table.
Right.
He doesn't even sit down with her first to introduce himself. He decides, I'm gonna greet this woman by creeping up on her from under the table and grabbing her thighs. So,
and thankfully, again, like we pointed out, there seems to always be a foil for every time this happens. When he does this, she immediately tosses the table on top of him and calls for help. Mm-hmm. At which point he goes ahead and clarifies, no, I'm the guy you've hired. I'm City Hunter.
Doesn't really make it okay to grab the thighs, dude, but it's alright. Okay, cool.
Now, something comes up here in this particular portion of the episode which is worth noting because there's a motif that shows up that kind of stays with the rest of the show, but the specific instance never happens again out of episode 1, which is the master, the owner of the bar, comes by Ryo with a specific cocktail called an XYZ cocktail. Now, according to Ryo, this is meant to be a signal showing that the cocktail signifies this is the end of the line, somebody needs help and requires the services of City Hunter. Now, as we mentioned in episode 0, the writing of XYZ over at the message board at Shinjuku Station is the primary way of hiring City Hunter, but here specifically using the cocktail, that's never going to come up again.
It never happens again. No, he says, oh, this is exactly what the bartender does to let me know there's a problem. Does he? When?
It just seems like what's happening currently at the bar, the thing that he's alerting him to, is that there seems to be a hostage situation in one of the other rooms, and Ryo needs to go ahead and intervene. And to me, it comes across like the owner of the bar was like, oh man, some crap's about to go down. Ryo's here. What does he want me to do? I mean, I could just go tell him, but I guess I'll make him the drink he told me to do. Play along, I guess. So Ryo comes over to intervene with the hostage situation. The girl's at knife point. The thug goes ahead and taunts him, saying, oh, you can't shoot me. If you shoot through me with that hand cannon of yours, you're going to shoot out into the street. And it's a busy street. You can't do it. Ha! But here is where we get one of the many, I don't know if you'd call it a feat of strength, but one of the, no, it doesn't work like that sort of things.
Sort of absurd stuff that Ryo somehow is able to do. So he fires his gun.
Which again is a Colt Python 357 Magnum. It's a hand cannon.
So he fires his weapon, it hits the guy in the shoulder, and the woman is saved. And she looks and she realizes, the glass of the window didn't break. Nobody out on the street is hurt. How did that happen? And then she looks back to Ryo, and Ryo has shot himself through the hand to slow the bullet down, and he swears, oh, it missed all my bones, and it was in a Full Metal Jacket. So,
no, it was just in a metal jacket. Full Metal Jacket would be different.
You're right. Full Metal Jacket is different. It was in a metal jacket, so it didn't just blow my hand off. It just went clean through the bones.
Past the bones.
It went past all, because you know how easy it is to go through all the bones in your hand. You know how he said.
Because there's so many little bones in your hand. It's insane to think, like, I get it. It's a show, it's an anime, I'm gonna go with it. But, like, come on now. Like, you can tell me, oh, I did everything to strengthen my ability as a marksman. I didn't think to strengthen my bones. Like, you strengthened your bones to move out of the way.
He drank a lot of calcium.
A lot of milk. Yeah. Ryo's drinking his milk. Okay, so that's the excuse. Now, admittedly, as soon as that's done and they've just wrapped it with a napkin, he immediately goes out and cries in pain in the alley, which is like, okay, that makes sense.
Although I even felt like his cries of pain were not enough after having been shot through the hand.
Point blank, mind you.
Yeah, like putting the barrel of the gun right up
flesh against
your
flesh.
The back of your hand, and then he goes and takes his hand over to Makimura just to like kind of pat it down with a cotton ball, like,
and then
oh man, you're lucky, it just went clean through those bones, man. Good job.
Sure it did. Like, you try and think like the nerve damage.
Yeah.
All right, and you need your hands.
He's not using that hand again.
He can't. And I assume he's ambidextrous for multiple things. So I just have to kind of stay with suspension of disbelief on that. So as we progress through, we see that he's figured out, okay, an informant has been killed. I guess we'll call him the BMW killer for right now.
Sure. He didn't really have like a nickname or anything.
Not
right?
really.
He had a real name, but
they only say it like once, and who cares?
Who cares what his real name is, because you're never going to see him again.
Yeah, there's a one-off. So Ryo realizes that he needs to go ahead and protect his client, and he offers to go ahead and stay at her place, which is a thing that comes up over and over again here in the show.
It's always, let me stay at your place, or why don't you come over to my place and I'll protect you there. It's always one of those two. Or he tries to convince them, oh, let's go to the hotel, and that never happens.
That never happens. Except maybe one time that happened, but somebody was trying to kill him.
Yeah.
But here we see an example of his bedside manner as he immediately moves to go ahead and disrobe. Let's go ahead and get in the same bed together. At least he gets a suitcase and fruit thrown at him, so that staves him off. And at least it's just that. He doesn't try again for the rest of the night. Uh-huh. Which is better than what we can say about him in later episodes.
Very true.
Some episodes he will try the whole night unless he's restrained.
It's awful. It's quite honestly kind of awful.
Yes. But unfortunately, the BMW killer does find our client, makes his way into the apartment, and seems to seemingly shoot Ryo to death.
Right. He's like, well, I can't have the city hunter coming after me to prevent me from just killing people indiscriminately. So I'm gonna shoot you in the back while you sleep. Okay, bye. I'm not gonna check the body or anything. Our lady goes, oh no, I was so mean to him and then he died for me. And then she pulls the covers off and it's like, what is this? He's not even really there. And then
it's a wig, a couple of pillows, and ketchup.
And then
the old pie in the windowsill trick.
And then Ryo comes back out from under the bed and touches her butt like, it's me!
Just need to let you know I'm still breathing and my blood is pumping. Wink, wink.
And it's not ketchup.
Don't make it gross, Kaylin.
He's the one that used the ketchup.
I know. I keyed. But now, since they've gotten a clear look at the killer, now it's time to turn the tables on him. Ryo spends the next day just taunting the ever-loving hell out of him, messing with his car, trying to alert the police to him, basically showing that he is enclosed there in Shinjuku. He can stop him at any moment.
He gives him a business card that says, turn yourself in or you will be killed.
Or die,
or turn yourself in or die. City Hunter. And he uses the City Hunter logo.
Like, that's amazing to me that the actual show logo exists within the show. Like, he's got business cards made up. Well, okay, I'll ask you this question because I didn't ask you before. Did he do that, or is that something Makimura did? Like, hey man, if you're gonna like taunt people, you gotta have a logo, man. Like, I know a guy, he's got a printing shop here in Shinjuku.
I feel like it's an idea that Ryo would have had, but then Makimura would have been like, I can make this look really good for you, man. Just let me make sure that you do it right.
Like, because I imagine before then, Ryo was probably doing the same thing, but he was doing it with like crayon. Or like a cocktail napkin.
Right. He's really suave when it comes to certain things, but then when it comes to executing these big, long, drawn out, really immaculate sort of details, I don't think Ryo's that kind of detail guy.
Yeah, I would agree to that. So that's probably, we're in agreement now. Makimura actually made the calling cards.
While we're at this point, I kind of stopped. I paused the screen in the middle of the episode while what's-his BMW killer guy is running through the crowd, and there's just this guy with this jacket that just says Omake 1987. And I was like, yeah, that's the year this came out.
That's correct. Yeah.
1987.
I guess since we're bringing that up, there's a lot of little signs in the background that you can read. There's like advertising for all of these real places and
Pioneer
brands.
Laserdisc was one of them.
Pioneer Laserdisc, Canon, Mr. Donut, Kodak film, not
Instead
Kodak. You can see the Mitsubishi logo there in the background. Like they use the BMW logo on the car.
Marui is a mall, a shopping center sort of a building, and it's out there in Shinjuku as well.
Milky, which I believe is a brand of chocolate out there. You see them advertising in the background. And the one thing that stood out to me, I don't know if this was parody or if this is a real place, you just see a sign there in the background while the killer's trying to get away that just says Pizza House.
I would really love to eat at Pizza House.
Now I don't know, because we've only done so much digging here. Are they just doing a play on words off of Pizza Hut? Or is there an actual Pizza House that I could have gone to in 1987? And if so, I would like to know what the menu was like.
Next time we go to Shinjuku, let's go looking for Pizza House.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, so dude gets into his car like, damn, he's got me cold. He's just playing with me. He could murder me at any time. I gotta get the F out of here. And he gets in his car, and Ryo's like, oh, well, now he's taken off, and now I guess we gotta chase him.
And we have a very small chase. It doesn't go that far. They end up, I guess, in the park.
Right, he chases him down in, of course, his red Mini Cooper.
And since this is episode 1, you don't think anything bad will happen to the car. No, it's gonna get wrecked.
The Mini Cooper gets practically totaled in the very first episode. It gets totaled a lot, and this is where I genuinely believe Ryo keeps buying brand new Mini Coopers.
Like, he must have a deal, he must have an in with a dealership there in Shinjuku, in Tokyo proper, that will let him lease or buy. No, he's got to buy. They wouldn't let him lease because they know he's going to destroy it.
And I don't understand, because they talk about the Mini Cooper to him throughout the season like, oh, it's just this crappy old car. But at the same time, Mini Coopers were foreign cars, and foreign cars in Japan, if you have to import them, they're not cheap. They're really not cheap in Japan. How much money does this man spend on new and or used Mini Coopers?
Now, to be fair, you note here that this particular Mini Cooper, his driver's seat is on the right-hand side.
Sometimes it moves to the left. Like, sometimes he clearly must get cars from countries that drive on the left-hand side. I don't know.
Yeah, we're not even sure, but this one in particular, for the episode, it appears it's on that side.
Right.
So there's a standoff, showdown. The client decides, I took Ryo's gun, but I want to finish him off, but I can't. Ryo takes the gun back and then just manages to shoot the guy's car, and it explodes in this nice little fireball.
Those are the best kind. Like, he shoots the car. The car doesn't actually immediately explode. It, like, veers off, and then it goes and it crashes into, a water fountain? Or something
just like a little divider there in the park.
It crashes, and then after the crash...
It's like...
shaboom!
So it's like a split second.
Yeah.
And then shaboom.
It's a satisfying explosion. Those are the ones that are almost funny.
Yeah,
right?
because of the delay.
Just the slightest delay. Tick, boom!
Yeah.
Just gone. And this man is dead. So Ryo is not afraid to murder people.
Yeah, Ryo has murdered this man.
Right.
He has murdered the BMW killer.
Episode 1, Ryo's a murderer.
Yes.
All right?
We're laying that down right now. He's a perv and a murderer.
We've learned this is the kind of guy Ryo is. He will totally feel women up all the time, possibly against their will, and he will murder people. So he's really not the kind of guy to idolize.
Yeah, he's kind of batting 1,000 here.
Yeah, but
now,
mind you, he has this super cool thing that he says right at the end, like, you didn't need to get your hands dirty. That's why there's guys like me.
Which is a cool
like
enough line, but it's like, yeah, man, but you did just do a murder. Like, somebody's gonna ask about that. Like, what the hell, man? Like, you've got no proof? I mean, you've got the one picture of the guy holding the gun, and you can try and say, oh, it was self-defense, which is true. But even then, it's like, yeah, but somebody's got to go to the station.
Now, do they?
I don't know.
Because Japanese police are pretty notorious, like the entire legal system, right? Mind you, you could probably say this about the American legal system too, but they just want to get cases in and out of there. So if they learn, oh, this guy who was murdered also did a murder, maybe 2 or 3 or more murders, in fact. Who cares if he died in a big explosive fire next to this water fountain?
Well, because let's say this about Ryo, because I noted this when we were watching it, because, in later episodes, it's very cavalier, very, Schwarzenegger, Stallone sort of action movie shooting you get out of Ryo. Here, against the BMW killer, he was using proper shooting form, like a marksman. And when you think about it, he only got the one shot off on the tire to make it crash and explode. So if they had to go ahead and look it up, they don't have a lot to go off unless they recover the bullet and the tire didn't completely melt. There's not a lot of evidence. They could say it was a traffic accident.
They could really pass it off. I mean, we've played the Yakuza games, and I know the Yakuza games are not like true to life scenarios or anything, but I think it builds off society enough for you to be able to say, like, take Yakuza for example, okay, Kiryu didn't actually do the murder, but they're like, well, who cares? The guy who got murdered was Yakuza. Just throw him in jail and just say that we solved the murder. It's cool. Like, I genuinely believe that that's actually how the legal system works.
It's convictions over justice.
Right.
It's numbers.
Exactly.
So here, it's entirely possible, I imagine, in this episode that the cops could have looked at it. I assume Ryo was still able to drive the car off, just put the spare tire on and then drive it away. Maybe it was fixable, maybe it wasn't. I assume that they would, call it a wreck.
There would totally be evidence of a freaking Mini Cooper accident in the park.
Unless he knows a guy. I have to assume he knows a guy.
Well, he knows Makimura.
And Makimura probably hooked him up.
That could be. We're making a lot of
assumptions
about...
But that's what's fun.
It is fun.
Yeah, because at this point, if Ryo can make the... So we're basically agreeing here. If Ryo can make the car go back to the apartment, then the Metropolitan Police there in Shinjuku would look at the accident and be like, oh, he was just a crazy driver, case closed.
Just a crazy driver, and he was a murderer anyway, so who gives a damn? He's dead.
And that's the end of that chapter.
Just dust your hands off and call it a day.
Which is the thing they say in a lot of detective shows over there, which is basically the equivalent of, and that's the end of that chapter.
Yeah.
And there you have it. That's City Hunter Episode 1, but we can't keep going without talking about the first time that beautiful song gets to hit your ears, Get Wild.
Get Wild by TM Network. By TM Network, which apparently within the last year or so had this resurgence in the form of like a meme in Japan. Like people were
even made your own memes a little bit.
A little bit, but the specific meme was people would get out of work or they would
we talked about this in the last episode.
They would get out of school and then they would get in their car and then they would just play Get Wild in their car while they drove down the highway. And it's not even necessarily funny. It's just fun,
kind of the whole thing. Like if it's the end of the workday, Get Wild got cemented in people's heads of like, oh, this is, you hear this, it's the end. It's the end of this episode.
Well, the imagery of the end credits as well is also very much, there's these highway lights going past while you're driving.
Right.
The lyrics of the song too say like your tires are hitting the asphalt, stuff like that. It's very much this imagery of we're done with this chapter and we're driving away.
And we're moving on. And the thing of it that gets a lot of people into the song is that there's quite a bit of English in it. At least here in the section that is used for the opening, it's your pain or my pain or somebody's pain. Get wild and tough. Get chance and luck. Now, chance and luck, that's a bit Englishy, but I don't care. I love the song.
I don't care either. I love that there is a Eurobeat cover by famed Eurobeat artist Dave Rogers.
Yes.
Who also is really well known for just a ton of other Eurobeat that you would hear in Initial D. And he also basically wrote the Ultraman Tiga opening.
And re-recorded it.
So there's English covers of this song too. There's a bajillion covers
of Get Wild.
And
it's just such a good song. Like, I admit to, after finally getting the series in my system, coming home from work at night, and I will play that to further impress upon myself that the day is over. You just hear that boom, 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 boom. Like, that bass. It's all there. All the instruments. It's just such a good song. Give it a listen.
Get Wild is incredibly iconic to the series and is really completely inseparable from the series as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Every time that there's been a recent resurgence of City Hunter, they've been compelled to use Get Wild again.
Well, yeah, even in later iterations of the show, like whether it's one of the movies or even the live action, the French one, they will, and especially there too in Shinjuku Private Eyes, which I argue is one of the best uses of it.
Right.
They will play a remix of it, a cover of it, or a remastered version of the song because like that song is City Hunter.
And a lot less use of this first opening, which I always thought, first opening is iconic for almost any series. I really like the first opening, but really what cements in your head is the first ending.
Right, because you start hearing that and you start kind of looking forward to the end of the episode so you can get to hear it again.
Because there's also this iconic, as the music starts playing, boom, doom, da-doom, boom, biddy boom, boom, biddy boom. You get this freeze frame at the end of the episode of something cool or funny happening, and this pan out, or zoom, I should say, zoom, not pan. Pan is a totally different thing. Zooming out and seeing the bigger picture of Ryo. In this episode specifically, he's got this cool pose, and he's like, that's why there are men like me.
And you hear that, dun-dun-dun, like, it's that, more than anything in the episode, solidifies the cool factor for what's going on. Even though he's done these unforgivable things, and really he should be arrested, you can't deny on some level, oh, he's kind of cool. Oh.
He's kind of cool, if only not for all that sexual assault stuff.
Yeah, that's terrible. Damn. Why is the song so good? Oh, the song's doing a lot of lifting.
It really is. It saves it. It saves it.
Now, other songs that come up throughout the show get a little bit more play later on. Sarah, for one, a different opening that we get later.
Lots of people think Sarah is one of the best openings that City Hunter has. I think I might, like, it grew
kind of
on
agree.
me. It grew on me after a while.
But we don't get Sarah until season 2.
Right.
So it's going to be a while before we get that one. And then some of the other ones later, a little less successful. I think it was City Hunter 91 or City Hunter 3. One of the other has that opening that just doesn't fit at all.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the one of the shorter seasons where the animation just totally changed.
Yes.
I hated that opening.
That was not a good opening.
No.
We'll complain about that more when we get there. But for right now, at least we have the joy of basking in Get Wild. So again, that's Get Wild, TM Network. Get on Spotify, get on YouTube. Go listen to that and get that in your system. It's a banger.
It's a banger.
And that's pretty much all we've got there for episode 1. It's just nice seeing the groundwork being laid. This is the relationship between Makimura and Ryo. This is how a case plays out. This is the setting. It'll be a little bit more time before things pick up and we really get to the meat and potatoes of things.
And it gets more comedic as time goes on. We really need to be introduced to more of the main cast that really has not appeared yet. But yes, this is the groundwork for basically the formula for how a City Hunter episode works.
And that's what we've got here. If you guys like the episode, you can always talk to us about it. We can converse about it later, but we definitely would like you to come back and listen to more of MokkoriPlay.
Come back next time when we cover the second episode of the TV series, Kill Me! Crosshairs Don't Become a Beautiful Woman.
If you want to catch us outside this podcast, you can always find us both over on Twitter. I'm at JoshKnightTheFirst.
And I'm at MarzGurl. Thank you all so much for listening to our second episode, kind of the first, of MokkoriPlay. And if you don't come back next episode, I'm gonna shoot Josh in the dick.
Wait, what?